Hello and welcome to West Wales. If you're new here, my name is Becca and normally I make videos about natural dyeing and hand spinning and all good things like that. However, I am very behind with my videoing, mainly because I've gone down a rabbit hole. I was supposed to be doing a natural dye video and I started experimenting, and so I actually didn't make the video I was kind of planning on making, and I've carried on experimenting, and it's now Sunday and I haven't finished the video. So it's an impromptu little walk around the countryside and quick vlog. So I'm going to turn the camera around, just show you where we are. So we are just walking on one of the local footpaths with the little dog Millie. When I say we, that's me and Millie. And as you can see, we are completely surrounded by bracken. It's huge. There are chiff-chaffs singing and bees are buzzing. It's early evening. It's been a bit of a grey, humid day today. And as I said, I've been kind of messing around with my dye pots, but I haven't actually really achieved anything very much. I mean, I've experimented and produced some beige, which, you know, not really great for the internet, but I've learned quite a lot. So the foxgloves are just going over. They've gone over in our garden, and we've put the seeds in the wildflower meadow in the hope that they will germinate. One of the things I like to do when I'm out on a walk is just take a mental note of where various plants and trees are that potentially I might be able to forage from later in the year. And I forage for both food and for dye materials, and hopefully at some point also fibre materials, because I am just trying to keep a note of where the nettle plants are, because I'm going to try some root retted nettles. Yeah, I have a book, I've read it, I think I understand it, and it seems a lot simpler than trying to do a retting process where you kind of put it in water and or leave it on the lawn, and yeah, that seems quite complicated. But root retting seems achievable. So we don't really have very many nettles up where we live. So when I come to these sort of wooded areas, I'm just keeping a mental note of where there are patches of nettles that potentially I can pick in the winter. So that very beautiful magenta coloured flower is rose bay willow herb. Very important bee plant. You can in theory get a dye from it, but because it's a wild plant and a bee plant, I never try. I don't like to kind of pull plants out of the wild to dye with. I don't mind picking things that have snapped off or are on the edge of kind of verges that are going to be cut by the council, but things actually growing in a natural environment like this, I just leave them be. So those rather lovely little roses down there are most definitely garden escapees, and there are a few cottages around here, and some of them are quite old, and one of them definitely has a bottle dump next to it, and I don't want to start digging up the dump, but if there's anything kind of near to the surface, then I will see if I can sort of find anything interesting. Sometimes I find interesting crockery. But there you go, there's human habitation escaping into the wild Welsh countryside in the form of very pretty little roses. So I hope you've been having a good weekend. I mean, I've had a good weekend, it's just been a very busy one. And another rabbit hole I went down was painting a watercolour cannoli. I mean, oh my goodness. So if you've been here a little while, you will probably know that I design stationery, and particular invitations is my kind of thing that I design. And so I wanted to design a holy cannoli baby shower invitation. So I'm looking down so I don't trip over. And quite often I will buy graphics. So other artists will sell their clip art, their graphics, and they're not very much. But I really couldn't find anything I liked. And I can actually paint and draw perfectly well. It's just it's very, very time consuming. So I was was painting a cannoli. I shall put a picture in and you can tell me if you think it looks like a cannoli. I've sort of gone off the idea of making an invitation with it because I don't think it's a very popular kind of design. I was also working on a birthday invitation, and I've got a watercolour of a mallard duck, and so I was doing a one lucky duck for a first birthday invitation. So that's kind of what I've been doing as well. And I do actually have to occasionally do things other than YouTube. As much as I love doing YouTube, it really doesn't pay the bills. I mean, it covers its costs, which I'm very, very grateful for, but it don't pay the bills. So I do actually have to do some work sometimes. And yeah, so that's what I've been doing, as well as kind of messing around with natural dye and spinning and, you know, all those other good things that I do. Right, so we're coming up on this area where I sometimes find crockery. So we'll see if there's anything here. So it's very dark in here, and the cottages are behind me and they're Victorian. And already, you know, we've just got porcelain, well, it's not porcelain, china, just kind of lying all over the place. And normally you can find good stuff without actually digging too hard. So as I don't want to fall over because it's quite steep, I shall go and see if I can find anything. Well, the dog just found some horse poo to roll in. I found some nettles. And up here, there's some crockery. There's a sign that people have been digging here as well. But as I say, I don't particularly want to start an excavation. It's quite pretty. Got clinker, well actually it looks like coal from there's probably ash put down here as well. I mean, it's just a general rubbish dump, this area. Edge of something a bit blue there. No, I think we will call it a day. So I've just come out of the dark wood and I'm going to turn the camera around in a moment because there's some lovely purple loosestrife just here. So I'll just turn you around. So pretty. And you can make dye out of it. Again, I wouldn't because it's a wildflower in a wild environment. So just leave it be. Back from the walk in the garden, and I am just going to show you what the natural dyeing experiments look like. They're a bit random. Anyway, I shall do that and then quickly just a bit of a garden tour, I think. So there's my 100 grams of wool, and I'm actually dyeing fibre, I'm not dyeing yarn. And this has been sat for about 12 hours. You can leave it for up to 24 hours, but about 12 hours, and you should get a really good fast colour by pre-treating it this way. You can also hot mordant, and I have a method for both cold and hot mordanting wool available in a free download that you get when you join my newsletter. So I will link that in the description if you'd like to have that to hand. But it's very, very simple. So 100 grams of wool, and I've used 10 grams of alum and 7 grams of cream of tartar. You don't have to use the cream of tartar, but it just stops the wool from maybe getting a little bit hard or brittle. So it's an addition, and I quite often use it. I would say experiment and see what you like. So here's the dye bath, and 200 grams of Scots pine cones have been boiled for an hour and then soaking for 48 hours. So we've got a nice little bit of colour in there. Now I'm just going to drain this off. So I'm removing the dye bath from the pine cones, and the pine cones I'll just dry out and use them as firelighters or put them in the smoker when I'm doing the bees. So they definitely are going to get used again. So there's my 100 grams of fibre, and I've just taken it out of the mordant, and it's still damp, and that's literally just going to go, oh, it's more than damp, it's still quite wet, literally just going to go straight in there. And then that is going to go onto the stove, and we're going to bring that to simmering point and simmer it for about 3/4 of an hour. So here are the results of our dye, and we've got, you know, a bit of orange, not a huge amount of colour change. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull a bit of this this out as a reference sample. Now, it's not enough of a colour change for me to want to use it. It's quite subtle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to over dye it. So I'm going to make up another batch with something else that is around about the place, and got quite a lot of it growing up one of the bits of fencing, and that's ivy. And ivy is poisonous, so just make sure that you are careful when you are preparing it, and you're not eating and drinking while you're preparing it. But I'm going to make up another dye bath and then over dye this with the ivy. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Just topping that up with rainwater, and I'm going to do the same process to extract the colour. So I'm going to heat it up, keep it just below simmering point for about an hour, let it cool down so it's the same temperature as the fibre that I'm going to add to it. There's the ivy all cooked up, so I'm going to let that cool, and then that'll be ready for the wool in the morning. So we're in what we call the micro orchard, and we have a fence that is all covered in thornless blackberries. Then if I turn you around slowly without making you seasick, you'll be able to see the apple trees and the pear trees. And then over on the wall there, well, that's not the wall, it's the bank, is quite a lot of my dye plants that are too pretty to pick, which does rather defeat the object of growing them. However, there are lots of other things that create dyes that I don't need to pick from the garden. So as you can see, the apples are starting to look really good. So we've got what's called the June drop happening, which means that all the little baby apples that aren't going to come to anything are falling on the ground, and it's just leaving the apples that are actually going to ripen. So looks like we're going to have a really good harvest. So there we have the rhubarb. We actually moved the rhubarb because it was in quite a sunny spot and obviously didn't like it. So it's now in this shady spot. It's really coming up. We won't pick any this year because we moved it. But you do actually get a really good mordant from the roots and the leaves of rhubarb because it contains oxalic acid. Poisonous to humans, do not eat it, but it makes a very good mordant. So there's my ivy covered fence that I have been picking to produce my, well, I was going to say green, khaki, I think, probably, if it works. Then the edible hedge has sort of turned into a jungle, and the knapweed's about to come into flower. And then something that is in flower, sort of dotted all over the garden, that I really don't want to pick because it's too pretty, are these little darlings. And these are meadow cranespill. and they were used in Viking times to create blue. But I don't want to pick them. I grew them as a dye plant, but they're just going to look pretty in the garden, and I shall have to make blue some other way. So just a quick vlog today, and I hopefully will be back maybe midweek. I don't know, I have to see how things go, but I am definitely going to spin the next in my rare breed series, because I haven't done one for weeks, so definitely going to do that. Anyway, I will see you whenever that is. So bye for now.